Today on Adversity to Strength, I'm speaking with Lillo Brancato, an actor whose rise to fame came early with roles in A Bronx Tale, The Sopranos, Renaissance Man, but behind the bright lights was a very different reality. Addiction took hold, bad decisions followed, and a tragic chain of events led to prison time and a loss of everything he had built. Lillo's story is one of hard lessons, deep regret, and ultimately remarkable resilience. Now, over a decade sober, he's dedicated his life to using his experience as a warning and a source of hope to others fighting their own battles. This is a conversation about the true cost of fame, the fight to reclaim your life, and the power of redemption. Hello, Brancato. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you so much. Take us back to the beginning. Where did your journey start? Because it's been an interesting journey for you.
Well, my journey started in Bogota, Colombia. That's where I was born. That's where I was, that's where I was conceived and born. And I was put up in, in an orphanage. I was an orphanage at a very young age. And then I was adopted at 4 months old, which was like January of 1977 by Italians here in Yonkers, New York, who were like immigrant Italians. And it's not usual for them, someone like that to adopt, a child, but they attempted to conceive many times and it just didn't happen for them. They did conceive once and then miscarried. So it just wasn't happening. And that's when they went to try to adopt. And my mom said, I've mentioned this before, like back then it wasn't like, you had the internet and, you could pass photos.
Yeah,
When it was photo, like when you requested photos, you would have to write letters to request photos or stay on the phone. And then they would mail you photos, but that takes a few weeks before they get there. And then say if you don't like what they said. So it was a time consuming process.
yeah,
My mom told me, but she said that when she saw the picture of me, that's the baby that she wanted. She looked
no,
at me and said, "You're a beautiful baby," and I knew that you were mine. And that's how that happened. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of that's the origin of the
yeah,
destiny. But then I came to this country, like I said, in 1977. I grew up in Yonkers, New York, middle class. My dad was a builder, a bricklayer. My mom, was just a housewife, a homemaker. And we went to Catholic school as kids, and it was a very, I would say, it was a very simple childhood, and just even in the mentality, I guess it was very, this is what it was. We didn't know anything on the outside. We knew that we were Catholic. We didn't know that anything else or any other religions. That's just the way. It was a very tight knit, neighborhood and street. We were all Italians there. It was really fun to grow up where I grew up. There were kids in every house. We had a great time, and in school, I was a little bit of a troubled kid. I was always seeking attention, as always acting out in classroom and you wanting to be the class clown and making people laugh. That got me thrown out of like three different schools over my school career. So, yeah, that's how that went. But I was always a good student. I was always a good student.
yeah,
Always, yeah, I was always an honor roll student, and it was always, always comprehended the material in a very, very big and good way where I excelled. And that really wasn't the issue. Then in high school, my early years of high school, ninth and then 10th grade, I've been thrown out of a few schools. And that year, I really didn't go to school much because I was just like all over the place. And it was that summer of 1992 when I had just finished 10th grade was when I went to the beach,
yeah,
July 5th, 1992, which was when I was discovered for A Bronx Tale. Like now I had heard about this film, many times before, and I heard about kids that I knew personally that were going to read for the role. And
yeah,
just the fact that they were talking about like so many kids and this kid and this kid. And I'm thinking that's just where we're from. So think about like the five boroughs. Somebody has to have this part. And I guess I just got intimidated because stuff like that doesn't really happen to a nobody like me. You know what I mean? It does, but it's so rare. And I just didn't think I was going to be the person that happened to. Um, but then they found me on the beach, and now I knew it was very real because I saw the interest that the guy expressed in me. He saw the look
yeah.
right away. He noted. He said, "Wow, you have a great look, and you look just you look like you could easily pass for his son." So now it's all about can he act or not. And I was doing impersonations on the beach because I was always a De Niro fan. Once someone told me I looked
Sure.
like him, I was like studying his movies and stuff. So it was like all
Yeah.
of that practicing and doing whatever I was doing was for that day. It was for that day,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to me that that day would come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But God
Yeah.
knew, and He prepared me for that day up to that point. Because when it happened, it was like, hey, like, do you know who Robert De Niro is? And well, he's doing the. I'm like, yeah, I know Robert De Niro. I started doing the faces, and they were like, wow, this guy's like pretty. He's like exactly what we want for exactly what we want for this character. He is the character. So I went to read. I got called. I got called back. Got called back. Finally made it to New York City, Tribeca. De Niro's production
Yeah.
office, and as I kept going and getting called back, there was less and less people. Eventually, I met De Niro. We worked together for a little bit.
Like you're
What?
a kid and you see De Niro.
When I first met him,
Yeah.
well, he was sitting down, and everyone up to that point was introduced on a first name basis. So when they said Bob, person I was with opened the door and said, Bob, Lillo's here to see you. So he was sitting down and he turned around. And I remember it was like, wow. And he did that. The movie Mad Dog and Glory, he had just wrapped that, and his hair
Yeah.
was that color.
Right.
It was that color. It was so that's when I met him. It was he gets like he's a very shy guy. He's very introverted, but when he talks, it means a lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't say it much, but when he does say something,
Yeah.
it means a lot. Whether he's directing you, whatever it is, he makes every word count. The guy's a genius. The
Yeah.
guy's an absolute genius. If you'll never truly realize and appreciate the genius that he is until you meet him in person. Because
Yeah.
when you meet him in person, you're going to see how shy and introverted he is and how he's nothing like that confident,
Yeah.
more screen presence than anyone. He's not that guy in real life. That's what he puts on. That's it's true pure genius. He's a real genius. And just to have been in his presence, let alone work with him in the capacity in which I did, to be directed by him was like unbelievable. So, we did that movie. I learned so much. And I actually saw an interview the other day with De Niro talking about acting, and he was just saying like a lot of actors just do too much. Even if someone's saying that someone died, a lot of times people don't react, and that's real life, and that's the way it has to be. Sometimes he would tell me sometimes it's better to do less than more. If you don't feel
Yeah.
like doing anything, it's better to do that than too much. And he said it the other day, and just like, he just makes so much sense, and just to like, have been there with him, you know. But I loved working on that film. I caught the acting bug. I got myself an agent after that. I did Renaissance Man with Penny
Yeah.
Marshall, Paul Wahlberg. It's great to work with her. She's from the Bronx. She's from Tremont, which is not far from here. And her legendary brother Gary, of course. And then I did Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman. And the word on the street is that they're doing a sequel to Crimson Tide. So fingers crossed that maybe I get just a little part, something. Because,
Yeah.
like when they did Maverick, which was Tony Scott, who also directed Crimson Tide, because he did Top Gun in the sky, Crimson Tide in the ground, and Days of Thunder. So he did a
Yeah.
film. And because they saw that Maverick was so successful, it made more than $1 billion box office. And
Yeah.
remember, if for 1 year it was shelved because of the pandemic, and
Yeah.
even sitting on the shelf for a year, it was still able to make over $1 billion. A movie
It
where
was
the
worth the
first
wait.
one, yeah, the first one was made in '86.
Yeah, you six, yeah. Yeah.
That's like what? That's like 40 years. That's like 35, 40.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But the fact that that concept and whatever it was to bring that back and still make that, it made more than the first one. So I think from that, because Jerry Bruckheimer also produced Top Gun, and he had the idea to do this, like, why not? We did
Yeah.
Maverick, you know what I mean? It made, you know, a shitload of money, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? For lack of a better way to say that. And so hopefully, hopefully my character even has a small part in that.
Yeah,
So we'll see what
that'd
happens.
be amazing if it does, because then it'd be like, obviously we could come to it in a bit, but then that'd be like a real Hollywood story, which is a turnaround. Nobody loves a story like that better than Hollywood, where someone's career's gone from one extreme to the other and then back again. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. The only thing that would cause it to not be as special is the filmmaker Tony Scott, who did Days of Thunder, Top Gun, Man on Fire, Beverly Hills. He did a lot. His brother Ridley did. They're British guys. They're from the UK.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Ridley, Blade Runner, Alien, Gladiator. These guys are some
yeah,
of the biggest. And I worked with Tony. The only thing is Tony, because he had inoperable brain cancer, he like literally jumped off a bridge. So, and I worked with him twice. I worked with him on that and Enemy of the State. So that would have been something if Tony was still alive, casted me in this, and
yeah,
this many years later comes full circle. That would have been great. Rest in peace, Tony. He was truly a beautiful guy. Really,
yeah,
really was. Such a true gentleman. Was great to me, to my dad, because my dad was my chaperone. I was under 18 years old, but he was such a man's man and really a great guy, Tony, So, but yeah, then, I continued acting. And, with that, when you're at that level making films like that, life is very easy. Everyone wants to do something and stuff for you. And then it's very easy to get caught up into, a negativity and a dark place, especially not having the experience and the age that I was to be thrown into that. I'm not complaining or playing a victim. I'm just
yeah,
saying I wish I would have had more experience
yeah.
to better
Yeah.
navigate the situation because I could have yielded so much more from it.
Do you think
You
that's
know,
where that happened? Because there's people out there, young lad, that kind of thing. It's easy to kind of exploit that person, especially if they're inexperienced. You kind of think that that's what might have started that for you.
well, think about Mark Wahlberg, right? Like, because we did
Yeah,
Renaissance Man. I was 17, he was 22. So 22 is even very young. Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's basically when he started becoming an actor. Then shortly thereafter, he became a movie star and he blew up
yeah,
from Boogie Nights.
yeah.
But the advantage that he had at that point was he was already Marky Mark doing the
Marky
music
Mark.
and his brother and the new kids on the block. So he was
Yeah,
around all that chaos and that superstardom that they were experiencing, and then he experienced it himself with the underwear modeling for Calvin Klein, and then he
yeah,
had the rap career. So by the time he got to the movies, he was already zoned in. He already knew that this is also a business. It's not only an art, but it's a business. And because of that fact, I need to work this like a business. I need to I don't think anyone markets themselves better than Wahlberg. He markets
yeah,
himself like amazing and just guy. That's another guy, man. I give him so much credit for what he was able to accomplish from being like Marky Mark and like to parlay
yeah,
that into that. Not just anyone can do that. Because a lot of
yeah.
guys, look at myself. I was there and I wasn't able to do that. He was. So I tip
Yeah,
my hat off to that. And that's stuff
absolutely.
and those are those are people in situations that I like to learn from. Because this is, you know what I mean? If you want to see why someone was so great, look at what they did to get there. And that's what they did. They had the experience and they made them like Wahlberg when his management company broke up. He stayed with the manager rather than the company. That was like one of the single biggest, best decisions he ever made. And that's what you call practical intelligence.
Yeah,
That's not stuff that you learn in a book. That's either you have it or you don't. To
yeah,
make that right decision at that right time, that's going to catapult you to the next level, or else you stay here. But it's like
yeah,
if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So I look up to guys like that, I really
yeah.
do.
Yeah, he's maximized his career. He's absolutely maximized that, and it's
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of quality, great film.
so where were you at then? Where so you're riding high, really young. Things are coming your way, and it's all good. Is that around the same time that things are starting to go wrong for you off the screen?
Yeah, but very little. They started going really wrong. I would say like 99, 2000. Because that's when, look, I was doing cocaine, but it was mostly like on the weekends. It wouldn't really go into the week. I would do it Thursday night, maybe Saturday night every week. But that's not the end of the world. I'm not saying it's a good thing. But then from doing so much coke, I started experiencing the psychosis where I get paranoid and I think everyone's out to get me and my friends want to kill me. So I jumped out of a car one night doing 60 miles an hour, and that's when the pain pills came into the picture. And that I think, I mean, eventually I think the cocaine would have led to doing it more and more and more, and then in the hard form with the crack. But the heroin and the opiates, they took me there much faster. I can
What
say that they took more of a toll on my life just because of that whole physical component that
did
really,
you
really.
do you think you just got, was that just like with hanging around the wrong guys at a young age that kind of got you into that, do you think? Or,
I think that no, not. I don't think it was hanging out with the wrong guys. I think it was the way my brain was already wired. I
yeah,
already had that. I already had that addictive personality because I saw a shrink when I was a kid, and he basically
right,
said, "I knew you would gravitate to drugs because I can tell your personality, the things that you spoke about, and the things that got you excited." But I think that I got into drugs because when I first saw myself on film, it was such a rush. It was a surprise seeing myself in the trailer of A Bronx Tale. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it was like such a rush, and it was something that you always remember, that feeling of dopamine, that rush, and you long for that feeling. You crave it. And it's like,
right.
shit, I wish I never felt this before. Because once you know what it is, you want
You
to
want to,
try to duplicate it. You want to find something else to like, because, Bronx Tale was a special film. I did other films and I got that rush, but not quite like that. It wasn't
no,
the same. So now, like I'm an all or nothing type of guy. There's no
yeah,
middle ground. That's not a good thing, but it's the way I'm wired. And then I discovered drugs. Then I discovered the cocaine. And I remember with the rush that cocaine gave me, like initially the first time. And it
yeah,
was very similar to the rush that I got when I saw myself. So I said, in the interim, before getting to feel like this again from my movies or something positive, I can use this stuff
to
because
get,
it's doing a good job at keeping me like that. But that was like the first few times. And then you realize that whatever you felt, it starts becoming a little more diluted every time. Now
yeah,
you don't know that's the characteristic, or one of the characteristics of drug is that it's going to become less and you're going to chase it. You don't know that. So you think maybe you just had a couple of bad trips and then you'll do it again and you'll be right back on the saddle like you were the first time you did it. But that doesn't happen. You get further away from that. And now you start twisting your mind, and your mind becomes twisted, and you start getting paranoid and delusional that things are happening that are not happening, and your brain is rewiring it because your brain doesn't remember good things. It holds on to the bad things,
yeah,
neuroplasticity to protect you. So it's like,
yes,
right. So this stuff like really screwed my brain up. So many years of it, of the paranoia. Like, yeah, I'm clean now, but I still feel the after effects and the effects of all the damage I did to myself with all that paranoia. Like if someone doesn't text me back, I've ruined friendships and relationships over stuff like that. And sometimes maybe I'm right, maybe sometimes I'm not. Maybe it's just because of whatever damage I did to my brain. You know what I
yeah.
mean? That I'm thinking that someone is, but it's so crazy to be thinking that way. And it's like, this is why, I try so hard to keep people away from living the life that I lived, and so many others that literally, really never really 100% came back from, because it's like,
Really?
yeah, it's like what you do to your brain when you're getting high, it's really hard to come back and to not have any effect on it anymore. It's, you know what I
It,
mean?
it's
Unfortunately.
it's really honest that you say that, because you don't hear many people ever say that. You hear like celebs, they go into rehab, they come out of rehab and I'm clean and sober, and then they carry on as if like nothing's happened. Nobody says, yeah, but I'm still paying the cost for this, you know. But you're honest and you go, yeah, well, you know what? I'm paying the price for this. It's this to cost me this, and I've got to live with it.
Don't get me wrong, it gets better. It gets better because, a lot of it's paranoia. When you're on the, like you're under the influence of the drugs, it's really hard to shake the paranoia or to talk yourself out of it like it's not really happening. But when you're in a sober state and in a conscious state, it's much easier. It still does happen, but sometimes it's just like, stop it, stop it. You're telling your brain, stop it.
Yeah.
It's not like that. You know what I mean? The guy just got home from whatever it may be, but you know, that's why, like, seriously, be careful. Don't ever like take it from other people. I don't know why people would try drugs when they have seen so many people fall really hard from doing drugs and
Yeah.
abusing drugs, you know? So, you know, God help you is all I can say. If you want to
Yeah.
enter the belly of that beast, God help you because you're going to
I,
need
I,
it.
before I was a therapist, I worked in sales, and it was very Wolf of Wall Street sales. I'm very clean living, never done drugs, barely drunk, that kind of thing. But everyone around me was just doing cocaine, living like a Wolf of Wall Street life. And I just like, "Ugh, I can't do it. You guys. You have fun, but it's just that in crazy. It's just a crazy world, that sort of thing. And a lot of people that were doing it, you can see that they've paid the price for it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I
When
mean, don't get me. I do it. I do everything right. Like, I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I work out every day.
Yeah,
So I do as much damage, damage control as possible. And, I'd probably be a lot worse off if I weren't doing all those things. But
yeah,
yeah, it takes a toll, man. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. And if you
yeah,
do drugs and that kind of stuff, because these are like, these are activating neurotransmitters in your brain and the release of them. And when, like you're artificially causing the release of these neurotransmitters, you're going to deplete the source. And then
yeah.
you're going to deplete the source until until you replenish. And, you're going to be in a state of depression in the meantime. And it's just like so horrible. It really is.
When did you realize I've got a real problem in this? This is not good.
I remember when it was like maybe 1996, 97, because like I was doing cocaine with like all my friends, like good guys like that, and like married and real good men. But they, at a certain point after, they were able to like, put the brakes and say, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe met a girl and started slowing down and going in the direction of getting married and having a family and knew that that couldn't be part of that equation.
Cool.
They were able to distinguish between partying, having a good time, but now this is this is a different life where I need to leave that behind and actually grow up and be mature. Like I saw that happening and guys are doing it, but like with me, I was nowhere near stopping. I was just getting started. And then you still like, wow, these guys want to stop. Like it's just getting fun. It's just getting great. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
19, 20 years old. And like I said, I was nowhere near stopping. And then I saw maybe I have a problem. And I was like, I have a very strong mind. Like if I like times when I stop smoking cigarettes. Like if I got to work out, I'll wake up at 4 in the morning if it's 2 degrees out because I know I got to do something later. So I have to work out in the morning. Like I have the discipline to do whatever I need to do for myself. But when it came to that, I did not have the discipline to say no. It seemed like the nights when like I was coming down off the cocaine, like really crashing hard, having to drink liquor. My body's in that state of crash. You know what I mean? And you feel like a real piece of shit, and you're like depressed. Your body's like you're trembling. You're coming off all that coke, and it's like you're like you'll swear to God, I'll never ever do this again. And then once you like drink again, all
Yeah,
that is forgotten about, and then it's like you're right there again. It's it's impossible if you're drinking liquor, it's impossible to stay away from cocaine. If you have had issues with
yeah,
cocaine, it's impossible to stay because liquor, you lower your guard. Your
yeah,
judgment becomes impaired. You're not making sound decisions. You're making maybe a 65% sound decision. You know what I mean? And that
yeah.
35% could kill you.
Did you have anyone around you that realized what was going on? Your parents, are they aware of what was going on? Any friends, girlfriend at the time?
My friends, girlfriends. My parents knew something was wrong. They had found marijuana and stuff like that, which to me, that's not the end of the world. But my parents are old school Italian. So to them, it is the end of the world. It is the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, so they knew, they saw my mood swings. And then when I would come home, my jaw swinging all like, why? they knew something was wrong, but they couldn't pinpoint it because they didn't have the experience.
Yeah, of
You know what I
course.
mean? They didn't have the experience, nor did they know how to help because of that lack of experience. So it's just like, what do we do but sit here helpless? My poor dad used to cry for me on the couch, my mom, but I guess I had to go through it myself, you know, and then years of that. And then ultimately to the fateful night of December 10th, 2005, when I was with an ex girlfriend's dad. And we were going to a house to get drugs. And, you know, I was desperate. I was sick. I broke a window. The neighbor, who happened to be an off duty New York City police officer, came to investigate. He said, don't move. He started shooting and shot me 3 times. I
Yeah.
got out of there. I didn't know my friend had a gun. The cop shot him as well, like 6 to 8 times. And then he fired a shot, which I wasn't there for, but obviously we know the rest is history. He fired a shot that ultimately killed the police officer. His name was Daniel Enchalteg. He was 28. So it's a horrible thing. Horrible,
Yeah.
horrible, horrible night. And, you know, everything that happened. But I guess that was like an angel who gave up his life because that's when my new life started. I needed all of that to happen because there's really no such thing as chaos. I saw this rabbi the other day. I follow him on Instagram, and he was talking about there's really no such thing as chaos. It may seem like chaos, but it's whatever you're supposed to be going. It's working itself out. So it may seem
Mm.
chaotic, but it's part of the plan and it's part of the path to bring you along to where you know you got to be. Because if you know that it's going to lead to a more beautiful destination, how chaotic is it really when you know it's for a purpose? When it's
Yeah.
chaos, to me anyway, when he said that, it makes sense. When it's chaos that's going to lead to more destruction, then it's chaos. But for me anyway, I'm not saying this is true, but when I hear the word chaos, but then it leads to something beautiful, kind of like
Yeah.
what the rabbi said, it's really not chaos.
But
I don't know.
your beautiful was a long way off. So you've left the scene and you've been shot 3 times. I mean, did you even know you'd been shot? Could you tell with the
Yeah,
adrenaline?
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
What do you
absolutely.
what's not I ever want to know, but what's going through your head when you think I've been shot? Or did you? I mean, you wouldn't have. Would you? You wouldn't have even known what had gone on, had you? Because you'd already run and you'd been shot.
Yeah, then I heard additional gunfire. I had no clue this guy was a cop. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't move. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as I moved, like it was like he never said don't move police. He just said don't move. And then I got shot. I got blood squirting everywhere. It had snowed the night before. There's blood everywhere all over the snow. I'm trying to get out of here. And then more gunshots. And then I ended up on the corner where the train to go get the car. Um, and then the guy I was with, he made it all the way up there, all shot up with a gun in his hand. And it was crazy. Then cops showed up on the scene, not because they were called to come find out what and investigate what was going on with us. It was about they just heard gunshots. They were down the street at a bagel store, and it was
Right.
December. So when you hear gunshots in December, it's not like the 4th of July or it's you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's gunshots in December. Something's going on. And then when they got there, they saw me, out of all people, the kid from A Bronx Tale, in the Bronx, on the floor, a real Bronx Tale. And I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there, and
Yeah.
and these cops just couldn't believe it. Oh my God, what happened? And then, you know, then other cops came, and it was a mess. And then I got charged with murder, went to Rikers Island. I was in Rikers. I'm still getting high. I overdosed in my cell in November 2006.
Yeah.
Still did more after that for like a week straight. And then November 18th, I got a visit in isolation because I got sent to the box by my friend Corey Rabin, who's also my mentor, my cousin Pat, who's an attorney as well. They came on a legal visit, and that visit changed my life. They just talked to me about how everyone was so disappointed. How the hell are you doing this? And for some reason, it sank in. And I knew that day I wanted to change my life, and I did just that. And when I got out of there, I felt like something, felt like I was free, like something was lifted from me. And then I went back into my cell, and I never felt the same way about drugs again. I kind of looked at it from the other side now. Like, wow, look at all the destruction that this caused in my life. Someone's dead. Someone lost their son who's younger than I am to my addiction because of this shit that I've been doing. And when that day, all of that thinking came right, it like it's like I never really thought of it that way because I
Yeah.
was so blinded and my mind was so clouded by the drugs, and I just wanted to keep going with the drugs that I didn't have empathy. The drugs kind of like took that empathy away or kind of like shielded my brain from that empathy. But once, you know what, I'd been in the box for a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just knowing the situation, I just realized I got to change my life. And I was so happy. It felt like it was a
Yeah.
modern, you know what it felt like? It really felt like a modern day miracle taking place right before my eyes because that desire, that obsession, because that's what it is. It's really an obsession. You're obsessed with using drugs. And that desire and that obsession had been lifted that very day. After that moment, after that meeting, that visit, my mentor Corey said, like, you know, we love you. We're doing everything we can to help you beat this case and to get you out of here. But you know, you keep doing this, and no one's going to be there for you. And I just thought about it, like, wow, no one's going to be
Was that
there.
a
Yeah, because he
good
said no one's going to
moment?
be there. No one's going to be there for me. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, how the hell would I be able to get through this if not all these people weren't here for me? I'd be lost. And then I said, he's right. There are so many people having my back and really there for me, supporting me, that I can't do this. And it's unfortunate, but it had to take all of that for me to come to that realization.
But that's a long way to go to get the realization. And then you're there going, right, a new start. I'm in prison. I'm gonna have to get through this before I can even
Well, even in prison yet, I was in jail because
you're
there's
in
a
jail.
difference. Because I didn't go to trial yet. You're in jail when you're facing the charges, and then when
Yeah.
when you've been convicted and sentenced, then you go to prison. So I didn't even went to trial yet. You know what I mean? I'm fighting a murder case on a cop, and I'm in there fucking around. Excuse my language, getting
Yeah,
high.
yeah.
You know, driving my parents crazy, having them send money to this one and that guy, and they're afraid. So it was a really bad time. But I'm glad that I'm glad that things worked out the way they did. I really am.
Because I would imagine there were so many chances where you could have gone, I need to stop this, I need to stop this, I need to stop this. And obviously when they those guys spoke to you, like you get that where it's something says something and it resonates and it just gets to you in your brain. Were you there thinking, how I've gone from that movies and now I'm here? How did this happen? Did you ever question how it even got to this?
No, because it didn't happen overnight. It was a
Right.
slow, you know what I mean?
Sl-
Yeah, it was a
Right.
slow deterioration and slow downward spiral to the point where then it's like you're doing shit that you never thought you would do, like heroin, crack, like this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like when you're first, oh, I'll never do that. I'll never do that until you're actually doing it. And then,
Yeah.
you know, then you realize that this is beyond my control because I wanted it to never get here and it did. And I did try to control it, but it was just beyond my control. That's scary. That's a very
Yeah.
scary feeling, bro. Trust me, that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
scary. No, because you're like, it's like destruction. It feels like you're going to be destroyed by this addiction, and that's exactly what its goal is to kill you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? When you put three players together, you know, like to form a team, the goal is to win, right?
Yeah.
Addiction's goal is to kill you. It
Yeah.
doesn't want to or give you a mirror, but it really wants to kill you. You know, and you got to try to not be, you know, try to not die. It's very hard
So,
because once you get wrapped up,
so you've gone so Hollywood career, you then addiction, then you're in jail, then you've had that moment of like, I'm going to straighten my life out, but you're facing a murder charge, and then you're going to court. What is kind of going through your mind that you like, I want to start over now, everyone. I want to start over now, but you're going to have to go through this. What are you thinking there?
thinking if I can get through this and I can once again have my freedom, I'll never do anything wrong again. I'm so sorry, God, because you never realize the power of your decisions and choices until you end up in a situation like this. God gave us the free will, right? And with that
Yeah,
free will, I chose to hang out with that guy who was carrying a gun to go to that place, right? So
yeah,
now it's like it's all about decisions. We're not a
yeah.
product of our environment. You know, we're a product of our decisions. You could get
Oh,
yeah, same people, five people from the same place that decide to do different things end up in
yeah,
different places. So
definitely.
that I mean, don't get me wrong. Some places are harder to get to a certain place than other
Yeah.
places, but
Yeah.
you just got to work harder and you gotta be up for the challenge.
Yeah.
Look at it as a challenge. It's a little harder, so what? I'll appreciate it more when if and when I do get it, and when I
How
do
did
it.
how did you deal with when you're waiting to be sentenced? What are you thinking there? Were you just wanting to get it over and done with? Are you waiting? Are you hoping? Are you just what were you thinking?
December 22nd, 2008 was when the uh, the verdict was read. After like 5 days of deliberations, so they found me not guilty on murder two,
Yeah.
2 counts of burglary, not guilty, 1 count of attempted burglary, not guilty. So the count that they did find me guilty of, there was a sentencing guideline of 3.5 to 15 years. So that means I
Right.
can be sentenced anywhere in between there. So December 22nd was when that happened. And then January 9th, which is literally 2 or 3 weeks after, that was the day I was to be sentenced for
Right.
attempted burglary in the first degree. So, as I mentioned, 3.5 to 15 was the guideline. So now for those few weeks, I mean, it's very bittersweet because I'm not going to go away forever. I beat the big charges that could have put me away for decades.
Yeah.
But, so a big load, like was a big load off. But now the obsession became numbers. What am I going to get? 8 years? 6 years? Five? 12?
Yeah.
No, 9? So all I would dream about is flying numbers. And
Yeah.
I remember my lawyer, Joe Tacopina, said that he spoke to a judge friend of his, and the judge said that this conviction is worth no more than 5 years. But Joe said, do I think you're going to get 5 years? He said, no. He said, expect to get about 7 or 8 because he goes, they're going to make an example out of you.
Example.
Now, 7 or 8 would have been okay, but I got 10, but I had 3 in, so it was 5.5. But if I got, I got 7 or 8, I would have done 2.5, 3.5 years. I would have went home,
Yeah.
you
How
know?
did you handle that when you were given that?
At that point, it really didn't faze me because I knew the bigger charges were beat. And my lawyer said it perfectly when I did get sentenced. He said, hey, it's not the end of the world. He goes, when you come home, you'll still be in your 30s.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. I said, wow, that's right. You're young in your 30s. I'm almost 50. I
Yeah.
wish I was still in my 30s. So basically, what he's saying is you have an opportunity to go get your life straight in this place. You've
Yeah.
already gotten sober. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, okay, 5 years. Okay. I could go get my GED, which I never did, my general equivalency diploma.
Hmm.
Okay. It's like a high school diploma, but I went and did that. And then I
Yeah.
enrolled in college courses that I paid for out of my own pocket. I enrolled in a school, they sent me the material. So I said to myself, I'm going to go make something out of these 5 years. And I did. I earned a degree in, an associate's degree in business management. I learned so much about that. I got sober in jail. So I did so many good things while away. And I realized that I do very well when I have structure in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone will do better with structure in their life, but some people need it more than others.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm the same.
People
I've
like
got
myself need it more than that controlled, structured environment. It really made me something. It really made me something good because to this day, I'm still very regimented. I'm still up every day at the same time.
you
I
can tell
still,
that.
yeah, I still work out. I still pray. I still have the
Yeah.
same prayer. I could show it to you if you want. I still have the same prayer that this man sent me when I was in there. I know it by heart. The importance of a private relationship with the Lord is key to life here on this earth. It's very important for me to know this. I have it. But this guy, John, okay, he sent me this. But I'm saying I still pray every single day, and I still have that. I had to have it
Oh, you,
laminated. It's like coming apart. But this
yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
John Monteleone, this guy, he was from Hallandale Beach, Florida, and he used to write me. He used to send me books on Saint Ignatius. He was very religious. Him and his brother, like, were bookies. They were in trouble. They went to jail. Then they turned their lives over to God. No, so
Yeah.
this guy felt compelled to write me for that reason. And he told me about that, what he was into, but he turned his life over to God. Now he was like an ordained minister. And he did all this stuff. And he would always end the letter, your friend in Christ. John Monteleone. And he would always write me and we'd write back and forth. Like I said, he would send me literature, St. Ignatius, Ignatian spirituality, discernment. This is where I learned all of this, making decisions. And like you get these people, sometimes they're weirdos, you don't know who the hell they are. Someone
Sure.
just looking for a place in this world or some purpose. So his purpose is to write you. So, whatever. So I got in trouble. I got into a fight over the phone with this kid, and they kept me in my cell. It's called keep lock. Now, when you're in there, they take away your property. You're only allowed like some state clothes. You only get a few books a week. You don't have your paper. You got to ask for paper. The ones with no lines. Like when you want to write
Yeah.
letters,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they leave you with the bare minimum. All your property's taken out. You're basically in a room for whatever time they sentence you to. So it could get hard, and you're not supposed to work out either, because working out takes
No.
away stress. They want you to be stressed in that room. You're not allowed to work out when you're in isolation. You're not supposed to, because that isolation,
Right.
when you work out, it relieves stress. It's against the rules. They want you stressed. Like, why? The guy's gonna kill himself. But that's a story for another day. But the guy, he would write me. I was ashamed to tell him I got into a fight and that I'm in the box. When I wrote him with the paper with no lines, he said to me, Lillo, the fact that you're writing me with paper with no lines, the Lord tells me you're in trouble, Lillo. What happened? So now I know this guy's not some crazy guy. Now I know he's the real deal. And he was the real deal. He came to see me from Florida. I remember I went out to dinner with his wife, his daughter. His daughter has a baby now. He died of cancer, but this guy was definitely very instrumental in me, my faith, and higher power. You know what I mean? It was just like you never knew someone like this was coming into your life in the way that
Yeah.
they did. But it
Yeah.
really changed my life. The importance of private relationship with the Lord, key life is very important for me to understand this. The true joy, graces of joy and happiness that the Lord will provide us with. It is real simple. The closer you get to the Lord, the more he will reveal to you. So if you want the Lord to reveal what life is really about, then when I say the Lord, I'm saying God. I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer really am. I believe more in God and, higher power, that a Messiah is, hopefully coming one day. That put things into perspective. I've seen God. I've seen that there is something bigger than us with my own eyes several times. So that's why I pray every single day for 10 minutes. I do not miss. Pray every
Yeah.
single day because I realize how much worse things could have been for me. But now, my life is great.
Yeah.
And director of public relations at a rehab,
Yeah.
drug and alcohol rehab in New Jersey. More Life Recovery. My really good friends, the owners, love working there. Love working for those guys, and it keeps me where I need to be. And just seeing those that are sick and suffering, and how easy one bad decision I could be right back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I
Yeah.
don't like to think that way because it's self defeating, but you never know. You never know. I
Back
mean, my
in
dad
mind.
died. I didn't want to get high, but who knows? Maybe in 5 years, my outlook may change. For right now, I'm good. One day at a time. I say 1 hour at a time. A
One
day's a
at a
long.
time.
Yeah, a day's a long. A day's far from now. If you think about
Yeah.
it, 24 hours is a lot.
Yeah.
An
Oh,
hour.
the thing is, you come across as just so positive, so motivated, really like, high, like adrenaline focused, goal orientated, regimented, consistent. Yeah. Same routine. You can just tell that. Yeah. And obviously talking to
Yeah, yeah.
yourself as well. Yeah.
It's important. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when you're in recovery like this, and you're an addict. I think it's very important to stay focused, eyes on the prize, but you need that structure. You
Yeah.
need that routine. I live and die by it. I would have relapsed a million times if I didn't have it, but I feel right now my recovery is pretty rock solid. It really
Yeah.
is.
And bearing in mind the lowest of the low, you still, with your lowest time that you had, the strength that you still had, because a lot of people would never have come back from where you were, no chance. So you still had that strength, inner strength that you managed to have, and use that to help get you through, along with the support that you found along the way.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of that strength came from my parents. My dad, such great people and loved me so much. And it got to the point where, like, when I was like, incarcerated and faced with murder charges on a cop, like, I couldn't be a more disappointing kid at that point, right? And I'm thinking, like, these people came to adopt me and give me a better life. And this is how I repaid them. So part of the motivation, a big part of the motivation is, if I'm not going to do this for me, I need to do this for my mother and father that dedicated their lives to me and
Yeah.
given me a better one than I would have had if I never got adopted from that orphanage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Of
like,
course.
you know what? I owe it to them, especially my dad. Not to minimize my mom, but my dad gave me his name. I'm Lillo Jr. And I'm thinking, I can't go out like that. I can't go out like this. I can't
Yeah.
disappoint these people. And I remember even when I was in the ambulance and I was like, all shot and I couldn't, there was no volume. I'm thinking my body's shutting down. The thing that I thought about the most is my poor parents on this
Really.
cold night are going to get the call that your son was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was what hurt my heart the most, that my poor parents were going to get, the call. And of course, someone lost their life and that person's parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really didn't feel that at that time. It was like,
No.
I just wanted to keep getting high. Later on, after all the, like, the clarity, I reached that clarity. Then it was like, damn, man, really messed up. There's like somebody that's dead, like, but you can't, now I just, I dedicate a big portion of my life to, like, try to help others so
Yeah.
they don't do something like that, because stuff like that will always happen. When you're on drugs, that kind of stuff happens. It just
Yeah.
goes with the territory. So let's try to get people off drugs so that doesn't happen. But I still love to do what I do. I'm still
Yeah.
acting. I wrote a screenplay titled Never Meet Your Heroes. It's about addiction and, manifested in different forms, gambling, drug addiction.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than, but I keep myself busy with that. I really love to do it. So yeah, man, thank God.
Yeah, and just finally, with because like with some of my guests, I'm like, what have you got plans for the future? And they can go, yeah, in the next 5 years, I'm going to do this. In the next 10 years, with yourself, is it the same question? And you go, do you know what, Lee? It's one day at a time. I've got a bigger picture, but at the moment, it's one day at a time, or 1 hour at a time.
No, it's not. I mean, listen, you got to have plans and goals.
Yeah,
Like even in business, right? Like, the four main functions in business are plan, organize, lead, and control. So you have to have a plan first. So once you have the plan, you got to organize it. The plan is here. Okay, so this should happen first. This should happen first. So then once it's organized, okay, you lead it. And then if you see anything off, you control it. But that's kind of the way life has to be. And when you set goals, they need to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, results oriented, and target dates. It's very important to set goals with specification. You can't just say, my goal is to lose weight, because it's not as realistic as if you're saying, I want to lose 10 pounds by August 30th. So today's what, August 15th, or what is it, 13th or 14th, whatever it is, the
okay.
14th. All right.
Yeah,
So losing, 15 pounds in 2 weeks, that's possible. It's specific that you want to lose that much. It's measurable because you can measure it. It's attainable because it's
yeah,
only 15 pounds. And the first 5 or 10 pounds you're going to lose is water weight anyway. So it's possible, results oriented, and you got the date, August 30th. So I think that, yeah, I don't live like that. I'm not a big recovery guy where I'm all on it with meetings. I don't really go to meetings. It's not my way. And I like to, I look at Robert Downey Jr. He never really talks about it. Sometimes I say to
no,
myself, maybe I should stop talking about it sometimes. But you know what? My life has a different purpose than his. I'll
yeah,
never stop talking about it because I do want to help people. And I
yeah,
wish I had somebody like myself when I was struggling. My parents did. So we have different destinies and different paths. But sometimes it's like you shouldn't talk about it because it's like it's a part of your life that's really ugly, and it's a part of your life that you kind of want to, like, learn. You learn from it and now leave it behind.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because if
yeah,
you're
cool.
talking about it, since it was so negative, you can't help but to dwell in it. Because if
Yeah,
it's negative, the only thing you can really do is dwell in it. So dwelling in that stuff is really kind of useless emotion. Like, better now, you know what I mean? And hopefully over time, being sober, your brain has rewired itself to different stimuli that give it the same excitement that
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol once did. But that's the key. And the beginning part is the hardest, but that's when you need the meetings, because that interim period is when you need the like-minded people that are not going to judge you, because you're very vulnerable when you're trying to make that transition into a sober lifestyle. So that vulnerability, you need others around you that
Yeah.
will support you and not judge you. Because when
Yeah.
you're
Exactly.
vulnerable like that and somebody say, hey, you fucking drug addict or something like that, that can cause you to go off to the
Of
races.
course. Yeah.
So you don't want to be around that. You want to be, but then like, listen, everyone recovers differently. If you feel that you need meetings forever, then that's what you need to do for yourself. You know what I mean? To stay on that path. Me,
Yeah.
after I got what I needed from it, I kind of went in a different path. But like I said, I work at the rehab now, and that to me is it's like therapy, because just as I'm helping them, but they're helping me. They're helping me also because they're giving me purpose to stay on the right
Mm.
path. How can I
Yeah.
help you if I'm not if I'm not where you want to be? How, how can I help you? You shouldn't
Exactly.
listen to people, talking, this if they're not where you want to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing is, because it's you, you're going to inspire people. Kids are going to listen to you. They're going to listen to you. One, it's yourself. Look where you've come from, and also the story you've got to tell. If that's not going to stop kids, nothing will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Bronx Tale is one of the biggest reasons why they will listen to me. Because the Bronx Tale puts me on the map, like, because the film transcends time. Even though it came out in '93 and
Yeah,
it was about the '60s.
yeah,
In
yeah,
243, it'll still be loved the same way as it was in 1993, and all the lessons in it and the film itself, it transcends time. You can, like, it's like these films, like, when people watch it, they're like, wow, that was like my favorite film ever. So now, of course, you have that influence. You have
yeah,
that influence because, like, they loved and were so moved by the film that they may even listen to you now. Like, hey, dude, like, I was where you were. You got to stop. Or, you know what I mean? And a lot of times they don't do it. They'll even do it more for you than them, but it works.
yeah. It works. I can see it working. I can see why it's working. I can see why you make such a positive impact. Lilo, it's been enthralling listening to your story. It's been worth the wait to get you on and speak to you.
Thank
I've
you, my
enjoyed
friend.
every single second of talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on here.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. And I know what you do for a living. Sometimes, I got some things going on up here that maybe I'd like to talk to you about. So,
You got my number.
yeah, I certainly will not be a stranger, and you don't, and don't be either. Okay.
Thank you.